and close textual studies. New criticism by Ransom. J.C. Ransom was a critic, essayist, and editor. He was born in 1888 and he was died in 1974. The seminal manifestos of the new criticism was proclaimed by Ransom, who published a series of essays entitled The New Criticism and Influential Essays. He published this essay in Criticism Inc., published in the world's body. This essay succinctly expresses a core of new critical principles underlying the practice of most new critics whose views often different in other respects. As Ransom acknowledged, his essay is motivated by a desire to make literary criticism more scientific or precise and systematic. It must, says Ransom, become a serious businessman. He urges that the emphasis of criticism must move from historical scholarship to aesthetic appreciation and understanding. Ransom characterized both the conservative new humanism and left wing criticism as a focusing on morality rather than aesthetics. While he accepts the value of historical and biographical information, Ransom insists that these are not ends in themselves but instrumental to the real aim of criticism, which is to define and enjoy the aesthetic or characteristic value of literature. In one of his quotes, J.C. Ransom says, we modern became uh, destructive and impatience, and the things he said to exclude from new criticism is personal impressions, synopsis and paraphrases, historical studies, linguistic studies, and moral content. So in this things to exclude from criticism, he says one should always the one who is critic should always criticize a text by the only the text, not the personal fallacies and historical fallacies. Also, linguistic and moral contents. The genesis of new criticism can be found in the early years of 20th century in New York of British philosopher I. Richards and his student William Emerson. Another important figure in the beginning of criticism was American writer and critic Eliot. Later, practitioners and proponents include John Ransom, Kenneth Brooks, Ellen Tate, Robert Penn, Rennie Wallach, and William Wimsatt. In many ways, in new criticism runs in a temporal parallel to American modern period. These are the critics who, right from I. Richards to William Wimsatt, worked on the aspects of new criticism and figurative language, also uh, practical criticism. New criticism gave discipline and depth to literary scholarship through emphasis on the text and close reading thereof. However, the analytic and interpretative moves made in the practice of new criticism tend to be most effective in lyric and complex intellectual poetry. Inability to deal adequately with the other kinds of text proved to be a significant liability in the approach. Furthermore, the exclusion of writer reader context from scholarly inquiry has made a new criticism vulnerable to serious objects. So, in this paragraph, I have tried to portray criticism as uh, free from uh, free from fallacies, that one should always criticize all the text without personal fallacies and historical fallacies. Analysis and close reading of the poems. So I have took three poems: Alexander Smith's Barbara, Emily Bronte's Cold in the Earth, and Thomas Hardy's After a Journey. So in these poems, I have took one to three lines of stanzas and have tried to display how the words gives us the imagination, and without the historical idea or without the personal information by and summary by poems, how that lines of poem displays the picture in our eyes. And this is the idea, first idea of Solomon and Gray. In this poem, Solomon and Gray, the immense cloud of even pass on their towering, unperturbed way. So this is the photo of skies and clouds, and this is the well-known picture by well-known blue picture by Susan Nunes. And from that I have took three poems. Barbara, so Barbara, written by Alexander Smith, is on when his wife dies and how he pays his grief to her. So I searched in my despair, sunny noon and midnight air. I could not drive away the thought that you were lingering there. Oh, many and many a winter night I sat when you were gone, my worn face buried in my hands beside the fire alone. So I have found the idea of he sitting somewhere alone in I sat when you were gone, my worn face buried in my hands beside a fire alone. So these words gives the idea that the poet is weeping alone when her beloved dies, and within the dripping churchyard, the rain plashing on your stone, you were sleeping, Barbara. So in second image, I have give the idea that where Barbara's grave, which churchyard Barbara's grave, there is a stone on which rain is splashing, and you are sleeping there. So he is grieving and weeping on the death of Barbara. Another poem, The Cold in the Earth by Emily Bronte. So in this poem, there are stanzas like "Cold in the earth" and "15 wild Decembers from those brown hills have melted into spring. Faithful indeed is the spirit that remembers after such years of change and suffering." In this poem, rather than these photos, I have studied that when her husband dies, it has been past 15 years that he is died, and now it is time to move on from that grief to come over that pain. So this is the first image of uh, the time of cold, and in another picture, faithful indeed a spirit that remembers after such years of change and suffering. So in another picture, there is a idea of that snow is melting into spring, and how Emily is coming over through that pain. After a Journey by Thomas Hardy. So in this picture, we have a very we can understand this very easily, because there is a lines like summer gave us sweets but autumn brought division. So poets wants us to say that he was with her lover when there was a summer, but autumn brought division for them, demise of his lover. Things were not lastly as firstly well with us twain, you tell, but all's close now despite time's derision. So he says that I didn't know that you are not going to last till I I live in this world. And this picture gives idea that when summer was there, everything was perfect, they were together, but uh, till the autumn come, everything brought them everything took them into a separation. Conclusion of a new criticism. New criticism was came published in 1941, and through 1940s to 1960s. Yeah, this theory focused on text itself. So as I said, this text theory was focusing on text because it was free from historical events, free from personal things, free from linguistics, as it is free from personal and historical fallacy. A question new critics ask about it is what is an overall meaning of the text. So, what is an overall meaning of text is, according to me, what is a text? So, what we write without any idea, and we can say, if we write a message to someone, it is called a text. So text is nothing but just an idea. So we should not bring historical events, personal fallacies, and other moral contents. These are my citations. Thank you.
Okay, who
H.
is?
Swachhata, can you please elaborate what Ransom meant by excluding linguistic studies in new criticism? Because when I Google, the linguistic study is meaning a scientific study of language. And in the first slide only you told that Ransom is suggesting for the scientific study. And in the next slide it is that he is asking to exclude the linguistic study. So can you please elaborate?
No, unmute yourself.
Exclude the linguistics is that when we criticize some of the content or text, we should not have any proper idea of that work, so that we can only criticize any work. So linguistic means close textual studies. We have studied linguistics in our bachelor studies, and it teaches us that how we pronounce, or how we get that idea of that word. So linguistic studies are excluded from new criticism.
Acharya, my question is, what is the main feature of the new criticism?
uh, there is several features and things we can say in the new criticism, that we should not uh, we should not have a historical background connection with that criticism. We should rather than believing and following the moral contents, we should judge that one text with exclusion of all the fallacies. So, main feature of new criticism is to just rely on text only, rather than the other moral contents, historical events, and personal fallacies.